Welcome back to the Sonny Talk Spurs YouTube channel. And today I'm joined by a very special guest to talk about Thomas Frank's first game at the club, about what else will happen in the transfer window and looking ahead to the start of the Premier League season, because it's ramping up. Our first game against PSG in that Super Cup, where I dread to think what the score's going to be. But you saw him on the video yesterday where we spoke about the Mark Gahey news. But today we're talking about all things Tottenham Hotspur. It's the one and only, the Twitter god of Spurs himself, Billie T. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, very good, my friend. Very good. Yeah, I was looking forward to seeing what happens in the next preseason game. I was kind of enjoying my time without Tottenham, but now that we've had a game back, I just feel like I want the games to keep coming now, because it's starting to get exciting, right?
I mean, I watched that game against Reading. That's where we'll start. Frank's first outing, I've called it in my notes. And I really enjoyed it. I really thought it was a good game and I saw it when there was a clip going around of some fans in the away end reacting to like us doing defensive set pieces. And they're going like, this is more like it. This is like, it weren't the most enthralling game. It's League One Reading, Reading going through a whole lot of turmoil themselves. But it was back to basics. It was efficient. It was clever build-up play. It was good from set pieces. It was an all-round good performance and a Thomas Frank performance, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think whatever your feelings are towards last season, and I know a lot of people still have a lot of feelings that are important, and I don't want to disregard the way anyone feels about losing manager after winning the Europa League or anything like that. This is just like such a new thing. Like it's so different to the Ange era. With the Ange era, we knew exactly in every kind of game what formation we were going to play, how we were going to play. It didn't change. And then this is completely alien to us. Like this new, like proper tactician in. We're going to play different in build up, different in possession. Different even during the game, different game to game. It's a really exciting idea, and we're sort of going towards that sort of the sort of modern tactical approach where you look at the opponents, you might play different players, different positions. Yeah, it's exciting, and obviously set pieces come into that as well. Something which we struggled with last year. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it sort of develops. But it was an exciting start for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned there the comparisons between Frank and Ange are like they're pretty much chalk and cheese. It was nice to see. I thought, from my point of view, more coherent passing, a high line. Well, not a high line, but like looking like every time a team came on to us, we're not going to concede for once. Which sounds like the thing is, people feel like I'm disrespecting. I love Ange. I still love what he did for us, but it just wasn't going to work long term. But I'm just sort of glad that it's good that we're seeing the players buy into this straight away. Even though, and I said this on my reaction video, it was like a really good team performance. But bearing in mind there was two different teams like in each half, which I was trying to get my head around that analogy. But do you think that it's going to take the players a long time to change from Ange ball to Frank ball, if you want to call it that?
I'm sure there are probably a lot of things from Ange Ball that that Thomas Frank will use to his own benefit. Like we were, when we were attacking at our very best, we moved the ball quickly. Used a lot of our wide play, used a lot of Udogie and Porro. It seemed to me like he was using Udogie and Porro in a slightly different way. They're both a lot wider than they were. Obviously, Ange, inverts them. Frank looked like he was going to use them to overlap, which is interesting. So I think a lot of the things which they use in Ange will still be present, but I just think there'll be some slight differences, particularly in probably a defensive phase. I think will be our main differences. But I think in terms of the attacking play, like there's a lot of stuff that you can probably use there. Like with Ange, we were always quick passing, wide play, cutbacks to try and score a goal, and I think we saw that a bit yesterday as well. Our second goal came from a cutback, so who knows? So I definitely think there'll be some elements and when Andrew's our manager, lots of people said this, like the work that he did in completely overhauling the squad in 2 years. A lot of people were saying the sort of things like whoever comes next, they've got good foundations to build on. So I think there's a lot that Thomas Frank will still be grateful for, even though Andrew's gone.
And I mean, I'm not the biggest tactico and stat man, but obviously admire certain elements of that. And I saw people saying like the way we were like building up in like a back three, and then the way you mentioned there, Doggy would go down the left, and Mikey Moore would then go into the middle of the park. There was like really good patterns of play, and the way Bentancur was, spraying the ball. There was some good signs, which is why I think we should be happy about it, especially after what happened last season, in the sense of the glory of winning a trophy, but then also the ups and downs of losing 20 odds, 22 odds Premier League games. So it was quite nuts. But wanting to get your reaction then to some of the individual performances, and I'll start with our debuts. Mohammed Kudus, an assist and a pre-assist, if you want to call it that. And a really good dribble down the wing. What did you make of his debut?
Really, really exciting, to be honest. If we can get that kind of performance from him regularly, I think he's going to make a huge impact for us. I think his biggest thing that I was excited about when we got him was his dribbling and his take-ons, and we saw them already in his very first game. Early doors, he was taking people on. That incredible one that he did in the second half, where he beat a few players at once, ran down the wing, somehow kept it in play, was incredible. Got a nice assist as well. Was taking corners, so I think straight away. And even Frank actually spoke about it before the game. He name checked Kudus as being someone that's training really, really well. So I think if you look at a lot of our players that return back from international duty, Kudus is maybe a week ahead of those. So he's been, he's had Frank for a while. So yeah, really, really exciting.
Yeah, and then obviously we can't go any further without mentioning Luka Vuskovic, who, I mean, I've praised this guy since we signed him when he was 16, 2 years ago. I did a video about a couple of months ago saying he's going to be this monster. And, even there were some people going like, I mean, and maybe I was being very over the top. And I know, again, this is Reading, but the assist is amazing. Like, I mean, from set pieces, he's going to be like unstoppable, like just the flick-ons, the goals, the headers. I mean, he was like one of the highest goal-scoring youngsters in Europe last season as a defender. And then the finish, he might actually be the best finisher at the football club. I feel like the finish is something that, you wouldn't be surprised Solanke doing. But what did you make of Vuskovic?
Just almost blown away, really. I know, people say you can't read too much into a friend. When you think about the context of what that actually happened yesterday, like he's 18 years old. He's come into a team in the most important, the big league in the world, and he just looks like he's been playing there for years straight away. I know it's only a friendly, I know it's only a League One team, but it doesn't change the fact that that's his very first appearance in a Tottenham shirt, and he's coming under huge pressure because he's so highly rated as a youngster. And I just thought, wow, I mean, this could, everyone's already talking about sort of no chance he goes on loan. We need to get him around the first team. I hope we slow down internally at Tottenham and sort of, treat him like, you should with a youngster. We don't hype him up too much. I'm happy for fans to do that, but I hope Thomas Frank and everyone around him are sort of keeping cautious and, to help him, because otherwise there's too much pressure on his shoulders otherwise immediately. But wow, and even the other than the things that you mentioned there, the goal and the assist, the way that he is on the ball is insane as well. He looks incredible on the ball. But that finish, if Harry Kane did that, you would sort of, it's a typical Harry Kane type finish, wasn't it? First time, he's right-footed, by the way, and that was with his left foot. Keeper had no chance. It's this kind of thing that we watch Harry Kane do, for years at Tottenham. I can't get over it. I think, wow, what a signing this is hopefully going to be.
And then also, we haven't mentioned it there, the goal line clearance. I think his first 3 touches were a goal assist and a
9
goal line.
minutes,
I mean,
wasn't it? It was all in the space of 9 minutes. He just seems like one of those players where things like that happen to him. Do you know what I mean? He just seems one of those players that attracts big moments. I'm all for that. And I think if you're going to make it in the Premier League, you need to be one of those players sometimes. I saw someone on Twitter make a comparison to Dele Alli. Obviously, not similarly in terms of players, but just sort of always around for those big moments for some reason. They just seem to be attract like the big moments in the match. And obviously, a very small sample size with Vuskovic, but he looks like he's going to turn up and say, I don't care that I'm 18. I'm going to turn up on your pitch and do this.
And
then
even
what Dele Alli did, right?
And it sort of reminds me as well when, like, in the game, Gareth Bale, didn't he? He scored a goal, he assisted, and he scored an own goal. It feels like it's the most Spurs thing I've ever seen. But no, I was really happy. Was there any other players like from Spurs who have been there for a while, or who youngsters who you thought stood out? Anyone else do you want to give a shout
I
out
thought
to?
Mikey Moore and Alfie Devine grew into the game in the first half. I think they had a slow start. Alfie Devine was pinging lots of balls out. Jamie Donnelly was okay as well. I'd be really interested to see in the preseason how we react with those 3, because I think you've got 3 really decent youngsters there. The only question for me, and I saw a lot of people talking about it, I want to get your opinion on, is Kinski versus Vicario. What do you make of that? Because Kinski just looks incredible with the ball, doesn't it? And I've seen a few people suggesting that maybe Kinski will start just because Thomas Frank favours those kind of passes up from the back, as he did at Brentford with Flecken. So one to keep an eye on for sure. I thought Kinski looked pretty good in the first half, though.
Yeah, I mean, what we're probably seeing is, I saw a rumor saying that sort of is up for grabs, isn't it? That starting role is up for grabs. I feel like Vicario's got the experience and the leadership. He's a good shot stopper. Kingsley's got the passing, but the thing is with Kingsley,
Well, I'm
And
up
I
to
saw it on
this is
Twitter
two
actually
separate
earlier, the whole
recordings.
that debut he had against Liverpool, where people were acting like he was the next Neuer. That was the good part of him. This was like, wow, look at this player. What a player he could be. And then he had a few games where people were questioning him. There was the North London derby where he let a few go through his hands. So he needs to sort of be brought back up. And I think the problem, not the problem, but the fact that Josh Keeley's been sold to Luton, I think this really puts the cat amongst the pigeons
Yeah.
with these starting goalkeepers to know, to see what's really going to happen. So it's going to be interesting. I feel like there's a lot of potential in this squad, and I've basically said to about everyone, I'm like, Frank's going to improve him. Frank's going to improve him. Frank's going to improve him. So
And I
it's
think,
really good.
yeah, and I think one to keep an eye on as well is we've just got that new highly rated goalkeeper coach, haven't we, who was working with Allison in the last couple of years. So, I mean, if you can get any of our goalkeepers anything like Allison, then we'll be all right, right? And what about you, mate? Did anyone stand out for you other than the ones that we mentioned?
I mean, I thought Alfie Devine was good. The thing is, I was shocked he was starting
Me too.
because
Yeah, just kind of forgot about him a little bit, right? I did anyway.
well, I've ultimately thought he'll get loaned out one more time, and then that's it. Really, he's going to get one more loan spell, and but it's a make or break season for him. But maybe Frank, Frank doing the right thing. We want to see all what these guys have to offer. I thought Solanke got a lot of heat for no reason on socials. I
Yeah, he
felt like
was
he was
getting a lot of people were on his back yesterday.
he was doing the right runs. He was doing the right the chance where Divine crosses it into him. I thought Benson Core looked good. I was confident with him in the six. Sarr as well has got the legs to play in that. I think we forgot about Sarr because we were all automatically going to be like sign a six and it would be Bergvall. But Frank's going to rotate that midfield quite a lot. So I'm in no doubt that I feel like there's going to be a lot of different potential. And also Romero. I mean, I sort of said a couple of months
Yeah,
ago,
he was excellent,
Romero, if you
wasn't
want to leave, you can go. But the punches in his passes to break those lines, we haven't got a defender like that at the club. And we said
he?
on
No,
our
we
video
don't.
reacting to Gahey, I mean, I feel like Romero is underrated when it comes to how he can play the ball out from the back. So, yeah, I feel like it's going to be really interesting. But moving the conversation on then, mate. Morgan Gibbs-White. Now, where do I start with this guy? What's your opinion? I'm just going to just as simple as the question comes. What are you making of it?
Um, it's an interesting one. Obviously, we're talking on the day that he's just been not going on tour with Forest, but apparently it's come out that's for personal reasons as well. And I wish him all the best with those. Sounds like something to do with his wife's pregnancy. So obviously, that's far more important than anything football related. To say that first off the
100%.
thing. I'm just a bit bored of it all now, mate. To be honest, I really am. Like, it's been almost 2 weeks, as you mentioned on our video yesterday. I was massively excited by the signing, but I don't know. I just don't. I think this Forest owner is just so volatile and stubborn, and Levy is also equally as stubborn. I don't know where it's going to end. I would love to sign him. I think it'd be great. If it's in a couple of days' time, once it's died down a bit and we're all a bit bored of talking about it, we say, okay, he is announced as a Tottenham player. It'd be amazing. I think he's a fantastic player. But this whole saga has now dragged on for nearly 2 weeks, and in the meantime, we haven't signed any other players since, and we haven't really been linked. Haven't many meaningful links to other players, or we haven't been linked to any players in that position. It sounds like Tottenham are still going for it, so I'm worried that it's now affecting our other business. And I think I wouldn't surprise. I don't know. Obviously, we don't know what's going on. So it's a crazy, complicated transfer, of which there's never been like before in history. No one has ever met a release clause and then it drags on for 2 weeks and it doesn't happen or anything like that. So we're talking new territory here, as always, with Tottenham. But I'm just a bit bored of the whole thing. Are you, mate?
It's you've just said it there. It's the unstoppable force versus the immovable object when it comes to them two. You've got
Neither of them are going to back down, are they? They're just,
Marinakis is a nutter. He's just honestly, I don't know how he acts is just balmy to me. And then Daniel Levy is just a shrewd negotiator. Like love him or hate him, you got to rate what he does in the boardroom. Sometimes it's just the fact I've never known anything quite like it. When it went so quick on that Thursday. I remember I was at work at Talksport and it was like, oh wow, like we're linked with him. Oh, we signed him. And then the next day is this illegal approach, which I mean, the amount of I've heard on Talksport as well. The managers and former players who just say that tapping up is the most normal thing, and it's not actually illegal. It's just
well,
it's just it's frowned upon, but it just happens because you want to just test the waters and see what a player wants to do.
And then the irony is, this Ndoye comes out for Forest, and then there's a transfer window this week saying, "Oh, they've agreed terms with the player. Now they need to agree terms with the club." It's like, well, is that not the same thing we did with Morgan Gibbs-White? Like, of course it happened. I mean, we had the stories this summer saying Simeone's on the phone to Romero every single day of the summer transfer window. Of course it
Oh,
happens, and like we're the only ones that seem to get caught for it apparently in the history of the game.
it's ridiculous. It's just I just can't get my head around. And you said that you sort of hinted at it there. Are you that fussed then if we miss out on him, or
I would be fussed if we didn't sign someone else of his quality. I think he's a real quality player, to be honest, mate. And again, we spoke about this a lot on the video yesterday. If you're talking about squad building, having Madison, Kulusevski, and Morgan Gibbs-White all vying for the same position, that's incredible depth, and you're likely to get some incredible performances out of them trying to claim the first positions in midfield. So I think if we sign someone as equal quality, then wouldn't be that bothered, but. This is Tottenham we're talking about, isn't it? And we don't often go and do that. So I would be quite devastated if it doesn't happen. I don't get me wrong. I still would absolutely love it to happen. I just feel like it's dragged on for so long now that I'm not sure how it ends anymore.
And funny there you say equal quality because it goes on perfectly to my next question. I mean, the obvious examples would be Eberechi Eze, Xavi Simons, or is there any? I mean, to me, Simons is like too far fetched. Like he goes to a Bayern or a Real Madrid or something like that. I feel like he's going to a super club. Eze, God knows with him. Or is there anyone else? Like, is there another name out there where you think, like, what about we just usurp? Because a lot of rumors I heard today about.
I think I know exactly what you're going to say, which is what I was going to say.
He might go to City, and then they might want James McAtee. So what about James McAtee?
Yeah, we should do the Liverpool thing, whereas if you're not going to sell us our player,
exactly.
We'll go and sign your target instead.
Paradox.
So yeah, I'd take any of those. I think obviously the first two that you mentioned are significantly more quality than McAtee at this stage, but that's not to say that McAtee can't grow into that kind of level player. I think it's just come out today that Simons can go for like 70 million euros, which is seems a crazy low price. Not obviously 70 million is not low, but for the player you're getting there, that's a pretty decent price, isn't it? And he's significantly younger than than Eze, for example. Eze is about 4 or 5 years older than him. Eze, I'm really surprised we've not gone in for. I'm really, really surprised. There's a set fee. I know the dreaded terms, release clause is there again. But if we've paid for the Morgan Gibbs-White release clause, which they're only a few million different, aren't they? I think Eze's is 60 million or 64 million, sorry, and Gibbs-White is 60 million. I'm really, and they're pretty much cut and paste players. There's not a lot of difference in terms of their profile. I'm just amazed that we haven't already done the Eze thing, gone in for it already. If this Morgan Gibbs-White is our main target, then there's one ready-made, similar price, similar profile, both English, both Premier League, that we can go in for straight away. I'm amazed that's not happened. And now I'm not too familiar with a lot of the European market, but obviously Simons is one of the top ones. I'm sure there's some data with led players that we could go and snatch for 10, 15 million, but I think we're really targeting Premier League quality. So I was surprised that we're not gone in for Eze. I think McAtee would be a different kind of signing. And I think if we replace McAtee with Morgan Gibbs-White, a lot of our fans would probably say it's typical Spurs. They're going for the young option rather than the ready-made, Prem-proven player that can come in and make a difference straight away. But having said that, I think McAtee could be a real prospect. I thought he was England's best player at that Euro, along with Harvey White at that Euros earlier in the summer. So I'd be up for taking any three of those. I think Simons is linked with Chelsea today, isn't he? And they're just signing every single player possible. So I'd be pretty gutted to see him go there. I'd love to see him at Tottenham.
Yeah, it's just with Eze. It's just gone. We mentioned it in the Gay video. It's just gone quiet in general. Like Arsenal don't look like they're going to go in for him because they've got Madueke. They're trying to sort the Gokeres deal out.
I think also what you have to remember with Eze and Gibbs-White himself, actually, it's a World Cup year. I think these players will be terrified to go somewhere where they might not necessarily play every single game. Gibbs-White, so I think, which is why Gibbs-White has not already gone to City, if you know what I mean, because if he plays,
that's a really good point.
Look at some of those players like Grealish and the player that they signed from Wolves, I forget his name, but these players that sort of get rotated by Pep. In a World Cup year could be seriously damaging to a huge opportunity for them to play in a World Cup.
Yeah, and even look at James Maddison, like the situation he's had, like with injury and whatnot. I guess they're scared in general. But then I feel like I heard a Forest fan on Talksport, one of the hosts, Max Scott. He said that it was telling for Gibbs-White that when he was at the peak of his power and he wasn't picked, and Tuchel went for Henderson. So that's it. And sometimes it sounds bad, but sometimes at Nottingham Forest who are like You know, I know they had a good season last year and they did fall off, but sometimes you do have to go to a big
Yeah,
club to get a
definitely.
bit more noticed, a
You
bit
get playing in the
more
Champions League, and then you go
exactly
from there, don't you?
properly tested. But before I get names on signings you want, is there any like other like positions you're thinking Tottenham need to get a left back or whatever? Like, is there anything that jumps out at you?
The main one for me, the big one is the midfield. Yeah, the centre midfield. And people call it a six. I just think we need a profile in there. I don't necessarily think with Thomas Frank we're going to be playing a six in the same way that we did under Aaron. So I don't think there's like this unicorn that we need that can break past, break the lines, be press resistant, do this, do that. I think Thomas Frank is a slightly different style of play, and he might instead favour. I just think we need someone in there who can progress the ball a bit better than our players at the moment. Centre midfield is where I feel like we're really lacking in the sort of Saar, Bentancur, Basuma. Got some decent players there, don't get me wrong. And we saw them in glimpses last season, particularly in the Europa League final, the run to the Europa League final. And again, a little bit of Bentancur, what he can do in pre-season at the weekend. But I just feel like there's a bit of a profile missing there who can actually, progress the ball a bit better and offer a bit more defensive protection too. Obviously, the big name that is linked with there, we'll talk about in a minute, which I think is looking more unlikely by the day, is Adam Morton. And the other thing I can kind of see is maybe a left back as well, but I'm not as worried about that one, just because Udogie I thought looked excellent on the weekend, and then there's lots of rumours flying around that Van der Ven might be favoured there a bit this season as well, and also Spence can play there. So that's three players straight away there you've got. If we have to go and sign Sirkin, for example, from Sunderland because he's club trained, then yeah, I'll be fine with that. But I don't see left back as a bigger priority as I do the centre midfield. If we don't go and sign a centre midfielder, I think we'll be really cutting ourselves short. And the other one as well, the third one is a backup striker to Solanke. I think could be important this year, particularly if Richarlison is going to Brazil, as rumoured, or if Richarlison is just, he's not someone you can rely on for 38 games in a season.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm still surprised we didn't really go in for Carl Walker-Peters, who could play both
Yeah.
sides, and he's gone to West Ham and had that failed move to Besiktas, I believe. But yeah, I think you're right. Six to me. I mean, I said on the video that Angelo Stiller at Stuttgart, I think would
That's
be
someone I've seen. I haven't watched myself, but I've heard a lot of good things about.
yeah, Wharton or Belabor to me would be like the dream, but I just don't, it's, it's just not going to happen.
And as
I
you
feel
said,
like
as we spoke about in the previous video, Palace aren't going to sell all their players in one season, are they? So
no, it would be silly. And then, yeah, I think apart from that, I think that'd be a good summer. If you get Kudus, Morgan Gibbs-White, or someone of that ilk, maybe a six left back. You're looking rosy, I think, from
yeah.
a Spurs point of view. But I guess what we need to do, which we haven't done a lot of yet, and you hinted there with Richarlison, is getting rid of some players. Who do you think is on the chopping block?
On the chopping block, I would say Basuma would probably be likely to leave this summer. I would say Bentancur, I think I was reading something today where if he doesn't get a new deal, he wants to go. So I think that could be one to keep an eye on long term. I wouldn't say on the chopping block for this player because obviously he's a legend. Son is an interesting one, and there's a lot of talk which we haven't actually mentioned yet about the game on Saturday, wasn't there, at the weekend, where he was. He
Yeah,
looked a
not
bit
great.
dejected. There's a bit of body language stuff going on there. But then if you looked at the videos after the game, looks like he had a back injury of some kind. Then Matt Laura's come out today and said that there's this clause saying that he could, if we sell him before this friendly that we have in South Korea, then we'll lose 75% of the tour money, which obviously is not going to happen for Tottenham. They're not going to forgo that money for anything.
Levy would be silly to do that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, that's stupid. And there's there's big rumblings about a move to America, isn't there? And then, interestingly, their transfer window is not open for another month. So that could be one to keep an eye on too. But with that one, what I will say is whatever he wants to do, I hope that he does. I think, after Bilbao, he's earned the right to have carte blanche. Whatever he wants to do, we hope we let him do it at the club. I think you'd have to start worrying about his place in the first team at the moment. That's no disrespect to someone who has carried us for years as one of our most important players in our history, not just over the last few years. But he's 32 years old now, so it's going to start happening naturally, especially for someone that relies so much on explosive pace. And I would love to see him move on to another team, certify himself as a Tottenham legend, and get the statue built. Right, that's what I want to happen. Get the Son
Exactly.
statue in there.
All I will say though is, I said it about with Adogi and Mikey Moore in that first half. Son
About the
is going to be
inside thing, right?
yeah. So I'm thinking like Frank could use him as an old school striker sort of thing to maybe dovetail
Which is
with a
what we see him play so well over the years, haven't we?
yeah. So could you see that maybe, and he potentially stays?
It's interesting because I know you mentioned that. So sort of more and Kudus on the right they're both almost playing inside forwards, weren't they? And I think that could particularly suit both Tail and Son. And obviously under Ange they were touchline wingers and they had to stay on the touchline the whole game. And it
Mm.
didn't. If we look at the 2 years of Son under Ange, it wasn't really playing to his strengths. And I don't particularly blame Son for that. I just don't think it was a tactical fit. Obviously there was that run in the first season where he was playing as a striker, where he probably his best spell under Ange, really. As a winger under Ange, he never really caught fire like he did in previous managers. So I think playing him close to the striker, close to the box, that's where we see Son fly. You know, he's statistically one of the best finishers in the history of the Premier League. I think he's actually, if you look at the actual statistics of XG over performance, he's number 1 in history of the Premier League. So let's get him shooting in the box again, right? Because that's what we haven't seen it for enough recently, have we?
Yeah, I feel like that could potentially happen. I'd like to see that happen. And
Do you think
just
he'd be happy sort of being a, you know, like a substitute coming on at close games out? I don't know. He's such a big personality. I can't see him doing that because Son is such an incredible. Everything about him is like he is the guy, right? He's that guy. That's why we've loved him for Tottenham over the years.
I guess Frank sort of hinted at it, didn't he, in his first press conference when he said, like, I haven't picked who the captain is yet. You know, Son will captain one half, Mara will captain the other. So, yeah, he has to. I feel like Son is wise enough to know that he isn't going to be the starter week in week out. You know, he's getting injuries now. He's not as ever present. He's not as sharp. He's not as got that pace what we know him to have. So yeah, I feel like, and the thing is, we've got so many options. If we do sign a Morgan Gibbs-White, like it is going to be super competitive in that front four. So or whatever formation we play. So yeah, I feel like there is a place for him, and maybe coming on in the last 20, 15, 10, he could offer something that I feel like, and also like with him, it's like, do we need the money? No. Would Levy like the revenue that comes off the back of it, that of having him? Yes. And also Yang, like if I feel like it would be a good experience to have Son there for Yang, just so he like, it sounds stereotypical, but having an arm around someone, and
And Son is so good
it's
at that as well. Like all the
and it's daunting,
all the
isn't it?
players there. Yeah, and I think the thing for me is with Son, people only look at the things that he does on the pitch. He does such an
Mm,
incredible amount off the pitch. Every player that you see in through about Tottenham, whether they've just signed or whether they been there for a long time, they all say Son isn't the best player in the dressing room that I love being with. He's the best character in the dressing room. He's the friendliest guy I've ever met. I think
yeah.
Madison said he's the best person he's ever met in his life. He called him the best human that he's ever met. And
Bloody hell.
when we won the Europa League, like he's such a big personality for Tottenham off the pitch as well. And I think he's so vital, and we don't see it, but he's so vital for having to players, embed into the new players and have that culture inside the dressing room where players are comfortable. That I just think he's priceless to us. I really do. I think I would personally keep him for as long as he ever wants to, and if he wants to go, then he can go. But I think he's just invaluable in many, many ways, Son. And of course, on his day, he's an incredible player. I think he'd be really disappointed if everyone calling him finished, because this guy has always turned up for us.
Yeah, and finally on the transfer section, Billy, I want to get your, be all and end all answer to this. If you could pick your dream signing for Tottenham this summer to make the perfect transfer window, just one player, and say that's the only player you're allowed to sign this summer for the rest of the summer, who would that be and why?
Easy answer, Adam Wharton. I just think if we sign Adam Wharton, we're set for the next 10, 15 years in a position where we've been lacking. We've been treated to some incredible players in that position. Dembele, Modric, some of the best in the history of the Premier League. As many people on TikTok seem to argue, the best ever in Dembele. Everyone seems to say that at the moment. But Adam
he's
Wharton to
gone
be,
from
yeah, it's gone from
he's
being
gone
a
from
good player.
underrated to overrated.
Yeah, he has. And I just think Adam Wharton will be a transformational sign. And I think that would be the signing that if we're really going to operate differently. Remember a couple of weeks ago when the whole excitement kicked off, we had signed Kudus, then Gibbs-White, and then the investment news happened all on the same day. And everyone's like, oh, this is a new era of Tottenham. We're finally going to be the team that everyone wants to be. And it's fizzled out since, as we expected that it would, the cynics anyway. So that would be a signing to actually say, do you know what? We are different. So imagine
Mm.
what these Liverpool fans are feeling right now. This transfer window that they're experiencing, and I just want a
Stupid.
piece of something like that, where you just have the one player who think, do you know what? Fair play, Tottenham. You've actually fully backed Thomas Frank. And I
Yeah.
think if we got Kudus, MGW, and Wharton, then everyone could start the season by saying, fair play, they back the manager. Let's see what happens, rather than saying, oh, we were always one or two pieces short. So Wharton for me would be the answer to the question.
That is a very good answer. And then finally to wrap up, Billy. Looking ahead to the season now, I know we're like, still about a month, less than a month until it kicks off. We've got the Super League against PSG. We've got Burnley away, Burnley home, sorry, before after that. How do you see the season going, and what is success for Thomas Frank? Like, what can they achieve realistically? Because I think we've all got to sit there and be like, oh, it's not going to be top four. Is it just stability? Is it a cup run? Like, what would be a successful season for you? And that's my final question.
In the heat of the Ange sacking, I was like, well, Thomas Frank's got to win a trophy, otherwise it's pointless sacking Ange. But now that's I've died down a bit and I've sort of respected the fact that nothing's going to take Bilbao away from us as a fan base now. We've got that
No.
over off our chests, and now it's time to sort of move on to a new era. I'm kind of just thinking, what I want to happen is for us to be competitive again, because it's been. I don't mean I just want us to do okay and finish in the top four. I want us to have a team where we go into games again feeling we could beat anyone on the day. Because under Ange, it was kind of like we just relentlessly lose in the Premier League, weren't we? And we had an amazing cup run. I would like, what the real test for me, and I've said this before, I really want to go into those Premier League derbies and actually think that we can win them again. We had an absolutely horrific run against Arsenal and Chelsea in those derbies. I want to be competitive in those games. I think in terms of outcomes this season, I think we need to be top six or above for it to be successful. You know, the amount of money that we're looking to spend, our current first team squad. And Bilbao has got me addicted to winning trophies now, that feeling. I would love to see that again, maybe a League Cup or an FA Cup. I think top six in a really good cup run would be a good season. But I think, in the 2 to 3 year picture, we have to be winning another trophy. Otherwise, we just sacked Ange for winning a trophy. I think long term, 2 to 3 year plan, we have to be winning another trophy in that 2 to 3 years. This season, just get competitive again, finish up around the top six and go one in the cups and we'll be all right. I think it's a big ask to go from 17th to challenging for the league or anything like that. But our chairman did say he wants to win the league and Champions League. So hopefully in the next few years, that's what it will be.
And we've got to remember as well, like we're back in the Champions League, so Frank's got to juggle that. And even if you finish
And
fifth
he's
this
never done
year,
that before, right? He's never played in the Champions League, has he? So
exactly. And if you finish fifth this year, you might get Champions League again. So
it's a bit of a worry
yeah,
because our rivals in inverted commas are all spending serious amounts of money this summer, aren't they? So we're gonna have to spend in between now and August to make it happen. So let's see what happens.
yeah. Well, we're in for a stellar season. Whatever happens, it's always the way with Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah.
But I'd like to say a massive thank you, Billy, for
No, thank you,
joining
mate.
me on both these videos, on reacting to the gay news yesterday, on this deep dive of everything Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, this is such a silly question. I say it every time when you're on. If people don't know who you are, where can they find you?
I'm Billy_T on Twitter. I've also recently made a TikTok thanks to my mentor Sonny helped me do that. So thank you for that. So yeah, I'm on TikTok on there. I think it's Billie T 1882 or something like that. I'm not too sure because it's fairly new last few months. But yeah, on there and just I just want to say I'm a huge fan of the work that you do, man. I love your channel. Always like really sort of level. I think with Tottenham fans we have the tendency to be extremes on both sides, don't we? I feel like you're always very level-headed and sort of well-reasoned. So I really respect your content, man.
Oh, I appreciate that because even my dad said that to the other day about me because he's not. So so I think it just was a couple of years ago. I'll tell you why I think I've become level headed. It's just I used to get like it was during the Mourinho Conte era, mainly the Mourinho. I remember that my mate Zach's got a video of me, who Zach, watching against Sheffield United when we lost, and I'm just like literally getting irate. I'm like banging the sofa arm,
I
and
know
all.
the exact game you're referring to actually with that.
And
So.
I thought to myself like, why? I'm not going to get angry about it anymore. Like even like last year, I think because it was so numb after a while, I was just it wasn't, and because I do it for content as well, not in the sense of like I've become numb because it's just content, but like I'm thinking like I've just got to be respectable and just I like to look at things like balance. Like I give my opinions, and then my opinion can change. I do flip flop and all that, but I just feel like you've got to look through it. There's so many different points of view, and yeah, I feel like, you know, that's
100%.
that's how I always wanted to set out this channel.
And we're
So,
probably like the football club where it's hardest to remain level-headed out of any football club in the world,
oh
right?
yeah, like we
So
go,
it's good to have
we
someone that can.
like the fact we won a trophy and people still go, well, it was an easy Europa League. Well, it
Yeah.
was, and I'm just like, shut
And
up.
we met a release clause and we might not even get the player. So, and
Oh,
we might be the first people in a while to have a here we go that didn't actually happen.
to be fair, I've seen TikTok videos where Fabrizio's
Like,
got a
yeah,
few of them.
a couple
Is
I
it
know.
to a Ziyech? To a
Yeah.
Ziyech. So get your head around that. But yeah, I'll put all your links to Twitter and TikTok in the description down below. I mean, your TikTok's got to be cracking up with all these lists and of your Apple Notes and all that. So yeah, I'll be sure to put that down below. But yeah, guys, if you have enjoyed it, you want to see more collabs, maybe more regular content with myself and Billy, then do let me know. I'll leave all these links in the description down below. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Until next time, up the Spurs. See you guys soon. Bye.